And to help you further understand China's white paper on human rights, we are joined by our current affairs commentator, Professor Tao Wen-Zhao from Tsinghua Center for U.S.-China Relations. Hello, Professor Tao. As we've just seen, the Chinese government released today the white paper on human rights in China in the year 2009, and overall cause of human rights has been promoted in all-round way, as we can see. Looking back over the past year, what are some of the highlights that caught your attention the most in China's human rights development?
Yes, I would like to emphasize several points. First one, we know that last year, the year of 2009, was the year of a world financial crisis, and China's economy was also seriously negatively impacted by the crisis. In spite of that, the central government as well as the local governments made tremendous efforts to create the job opportunities, and actually created more than 11 million job opportunities, so that graduates from colleges and migrant workers could have their jobs. And this is a tremendous task. Secondly, disaster relief and reduction. We know that after the Wenchuan earthquake in 2008, there's a tremendous work to rebuild that area. And just this morning, I got the news that Beichuan County, the rebuilding is already completed with assistance from Shandong province. Actually, the Shandong province spent 5 billion RMB for rebuilding the Beichuan County. And also this year, last year, in Yushu County, we know there's an earthquake. So the central government as well as the local governments paid a lot of attention to those kind of disaster relief and disaster rescue works. And thirdly, we know that now Chinese people enjoys more and more freedom of speech. And the outstanding case is to protect the internet freedom. Now people can express their opinions freely on internet on various issues, on politics, on economic policy, and also on some corruption cases. Actually, some corruption cases were first of all exposed on internet, and then the government and caused the attention of the government. And fourthly, we know that the nationalities, minorities, have caused attention throughout the world. Now, all the provinces have its own target. For instance, in Xinjiang and Tibet, for the assistance, and the whole country is now assisting the minority inhabitant area, especially Xinjiang and Tibet, and Xinjiang and Tibetan people receive assistance across the street, and this probably will accelerate the rebuilding of all these provinces.
Mm-hmm. Now, the white paper, as I mentioned, is China's 9th report on China's human rights development since 1991. Obviously, a lot of efforts have been made to to push the cause of this area in China. However, despite all these efforts, there seems always the discrepancy between the Chinese understanding of human rights protection and the Western expectations of China's efforts in this regard. And as a well-traveled scholar, Professor Tao, you must have very good knowledge about that. Exactly where does the discrepancy come from, and how should we understand China's efforts in this regard in the future?
Well, actually, in the West, people generally do not think that the economic rights, the rights for existence and development are the human rights. In West countries, people generally just think that the political rights are human rights, and their human rights are just freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, etc. So, but we emphasize that rights for existence and development are the most important part of human rights, and this position is now recognized by more and more countries throughout the world, and also recognized by the United Nations. We know that just a few days ago, the heads of the world leaders of more than 180 countries assembled in New York discussing about the United Nations Millennium Development Goal. And actually in the past 10 years, in the regard of eradicating the poverty and the hunger, China contributed to that by 75%. You know, China, although according to the United Nations standard, China still has 150 million people living under poverty line, so we have to make further efforts. But anyway, this is, I think, and also people in China generally think the most important component of human rights. And to protect and promote human rights are now the important content of our constitution. So it has a legal guarantee. And the central government now emphasizes very much on so-called harmonious society. That is to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor, the East Coast and the inland, the rural area and the urban area. And the government has paid a lot of attention to establishing and improving the nationwide social security system, Medicare system, etc. So I think, and also, of course, the people's political orderly participation in politics is also encouraged by the government.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I'm quite optimistic about the future development of the human rights in China.
Indeed, we have come a very long way, and we're determined to go down this road. Many thanks to Professor Taiwan Zhao.